Yeah, Yesshift episode, I think 12,082 or something like that. I've lost track, but Steve probably knows. Steve, here we are with still kind of feels like the beginning of the year, right? Beginning of the new Yesshift season.
Yeah, like February, but the first month went by so fast, so it still feels really early in the month. But yeah, we're joined by a first-time guest on the show, Leon Alvarado. How's it going?
How you doing, guys?
Great. Real excited to have you and talk about this really great album. Congratulations on this album. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this album is titled The Wicked Forest. It's coming out February 27th and features you along with Billy Sherwood, John Davison, the late great Johnny Bruns, whom we were able to have on the show last year. It was a really great conversation. And folks, you can check out Leon's Bandcamp via the link in this post, leonalvarado.bandcamp.com. But I'll go ahead and show the CD images. But go ahead and share, Leon, the story of how this album came together. How long had it been in the works?
Yeah, this album took a little longer in a way. It started a few years ago, about 5-6 years ago. Anybody who knows me knows that my background is progressive and music. That's what I like. That's what I grew up with. It's particularly British. I usually have a lot of influences from the bands that I like. But about 6 years ago, there was a piece from Yes on the album Drama called "Men on a White Car," and I always liked the piece, but it's very short, right? But there was something about it, I don't know. I mean, so I decided one day that I wanted kind of to toy with it, and I started recreating it. And then it dawned on me, like, I could just write a piece of instrumental music and, just tie it at the end and make it like a mini suite sort of. But, I mean, how would that be? So I started building that up and then got kind of excited. Now, I knew Billy Sherwood and Johnny Bruns from the past, and I worked with them on another album of mine prior to this one. And so I thought, and I know, well, Billy Sherwood is Billy Sherwood, but the thing with Johnny that I liked about his playing is, to me, if there's anybody who could really, absorb that Yes sound in the guitar, was him. I mean, he was pretty talented.
Yeah.
So I approached the guys and I said, okay, how about, you guys, add your bits to this thing that I'm working on. And they agreed to it. And then when it came down to do the vocals, obviously I don't sound anything like, it would come across Yes like. I think it was Billy who suggested John Davidson. He said, hey, we can ask John, see if he wants to record the voice for this thing. And so we did. So, he agreed to it. So we recorded his voice. So I had this one piece, right? And I said, well, this sounds really good. But then I had one piece and no way there wasn't a vehicle for me to release it, right? I said, so now what am I going to do with this thing? In the meantime, I had other projects kind of flying around and they took over. And so I kind of shelved this thing for a while. But when I cleared one of the projects, I said, I like to, and Johnny would call me and say, hey, are we ever going to release this thing? And I said, well, I got to have more music. I can't just, release this one thing. So after all the other projects clear out, and it took a couple of years, it was 2 different projects, I decided to go back in and said, let me write other stuff and then we'll just add this to at the end of it. I mean, and so because the nature of the music, I wanted to keep kind of the same band together for the rest of the album. I wanted a cohesive sound. I said, okay, so let's make something progressive. It won't be Yes, but it'll be some similarities here and there because obviously I got the bass guy and the vocal guy, and so people are gonna make that connection. And it's prog, so, but it wasn't like, okay. And the reason I'm saying this is because the last album I did was kind of like tribute in a sense of to Pink Floyd. There is one Pink Floyd song in it, but we went to that one, right, really trying to hit the Pink Floyd sound. And again, it was one of those things I just wanted to sort of see if we can do it. And some people get it. Some people go, well, if I want to listen to Pink Floyd, I'll just listen to Pink Floyd. I say, well, that's everybody. But, I've been listening to Pink Floyd for 50 years. It would be nice to have something else in that kind of style. That was it.
Sure.
So on this particular album, going back to the new one, I wasn't necessarily trying to recreate Yes, although because we had that one Yes cover with the additional music that I put, I had to have some kind of cohesive sound. That's how I work. I know some other people like Jeff Beck, he would have different singers in one album and whatnot.
Yeah.
Some people do that. I like the thing to be kind of all more even, right?
Sound like a band, right?
Right. So I want, and usually that's how I work, right? If I work an album with a particular set of guys, I'll stick through it with them throughout the whole thing. And that was the original act here. And so, and Johnny would every so often call me and, let's get it going. And, he was actually a driver behind me to push me to get this out because he was liking what it was coming out. So we did work on other pieces. Sadly, he passed away before we finished the whole thing. So some of the guitar parts on the rest of the album were taken over by, I didn't want to bring in yet another guy. So Billy Sherwood took over on some of the songs on the guitar parts, which he's done for me in the past as well. The first time I worked with Billy, I actually didn't use him as a bass player. He just did a bunch of guitar tracks for me. And because Billy, in reality, he can play almost anything but the horns. Okay.
Yeah.
He can just do it all. He's a very talented guy, which is kind of funny to me because the first time I ever saw Billy was doing the Yes Talk Show tour. You remember it? Okay.
Yeah.
So I went there with some friends and, because I actually liked that album. I know it's kind of obscure sort of because it was released through, was it Victory Records or somebody like that? But of all the albums with Trevor Rabin, I think they're all okay, but that one is my favorite by far. So I went to the tour and I was such a fan back in the day, and fans can get very emotional. So we sit there, the thing comes up, and everybody comes in, and this guy in the back, right, that I never seen in my life. I say, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah.
I remember. And once in a while, they bring him in the front, and he does some things, and I go, "I don't know who this guy is." And it's funny because when one time I was at his house in California when he was living there. And I told him this story. I said, I remember the first time I saw you. I don't know who the hell is this kid singing here, with my heroes, kind of thing. And then come to see, Billy actually has been pretty instrumental in my mind with keep being some kind of the glue to Yes, because they've always been very contentious, and he kind of he's been there for several roles,
Yeah. He's worn more hats in Yes than anybody.
Yeah. And but in the end, the guy is very he's very nice and he's very talented. I like Billy a lot. And so these days he's sharing. He spent time between England and the US. That's kind of what he's doing these days. So a lot of times when we either see each other after backstage on a show. We just did that in Florida last year, and then or it's the Zoom thing because that's like these days that's the technology, right? You just call each other and then you start talking about things. But with Billy and Johnny that I already have worked in, I said, okay, I can keep this in. Now with John, I had never worked with him before, but when he did the vocals for the Man in a White Car. That kind of seals it. Now, when you work albums like I do, you have to work around people's schedules too, right? So sometimes the weight is not just you, like, oh, I'm not getting to it, but it's like if they're on tour, there's no, and that happened to me all the time with all kinds of people. I work with the guys from King Crimson in the past, and it's like, okay, we get 2 songs in, the next one comes in, then 6 months from now, whatever, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So things tend to sometimes stretch, even if that's beyond your regular scope. But this particular thing, so we started this thing about 5-6 years ago. I keep thinking in my head it's 4, but I think I checked the day the other day, and it's like, wow, it's been that long. I think it's like between 5 and 6. And with the man in a white car, and then after that, I wrote some new stuff, got the guys back on to do things in between their tours and whatnot. John's part took a little longer because he was touring with John Lodge at the time, which was his father-in-law, right?
Yeah.
So, so that was, we had to do things in between. He would tell me, okay, I have a break between this, and and because most of the music I do is instrumental, right? This is the first album I actually write lyrics. I wrote some. My wife wrote some of the. My wife has a degree in creative writing, so I figure I'd be an idiot not to use her. I'm a foreigner. I had to learn English when I was 16. But but I did write some lyrics here, and being my first album really with original music that has lyrics to it. I had to kind of. I don't know how people go normally about the thing. I mean, singers have their own way of writing things, but I had to write melodies so somebody else could sing it, and that sort of thing. And that was an interesting process, But like anything else, the more you go into it, the more you learn, Yeah. I am actually kind of pleased with how the whole thing come out. I just hope people like it. And
yeah, it's great. What was the recording process like with the 3 of them? Was it all file sharing? Did you ever get together in person to record?
Yeah, I actually have worked with Billy back before in his studio at home, right? And because it was in California.
Was it the one? I'm sorry. Was it the one where he was out in Palmdale or Lancaster or West Hills in the Valley?
It was. I'll tell you this much: to get in the subdivision, there was a desert on the other side of a road.
Okay, so it was the Lancaster, I believe.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what. I just remember, like, oh man, we're really in the middle of nowhere here.
Before then, he lived in the area where I grew up, like literally in the same neighborhood.
Oh, got you. Yeah. No, So, and that studio of his, that's where we worked together one time. And then we met up with Johnny. And then on another occasion, the way I met Johnny was through Billy. And really, I was in Torrance 1 year happened to be my birthday. And then Circa was playing in Redondo Beach. So Billy said, well, come on over and watch the show. And so I did. And then after the show, I met Tony and on keys, and I met the band, right? And I met Johnny. And then I started talking to him because he impressed me. They did that medley of Yes.
Yeah.
But that was killer, though. I mean, the guys, nailed that thing. So I thought, this is pretty good. And that's how I met the guy. So I used to go. I haven't been in a couple of years, but I used to go to NAMM every year, and then I would re-meet with these people. Whoever I had their phone number, I would call them and say, "Hey, look, are you here?" Because there was always the after parties afterwards in the hotels and whatnot, and we would either meet there or a restaurant, or a lot of times even at the floor of the place. And then we would talk about things, and then so there is some of that, but the big bulk of it is you swap files and you Zoom to talk about what the things are. So I don't have an issue with that because it makes things a lot more financially economic, if you work this way.
Yeah.
When you do the studio, which I done with people, not on my bill, but things can add up. I remember one time we were recording an album for a friend of mine in upstate New York, around the Woodstock area. There's a studio there called Dreamland.
Yeah.
So Jerry Marotta runs it.
Yep.
So he was the drummer on this particular project. So we went there, and it was us and Jerry, and Tony Levin was there, and Trey Gunn. So we recorded there for about a week, and the only thing in my head was going, this can't be cheap, this can't, be like, so the swapping files, that works for me. I do a lot of my composition. A lot of times I may do either a loose bass line with my bass. I'm not that good at that. Or I'll do one on keyboards.
Yeah.
But if see somebody like with Billy, I worked enough to like, I don't hardly have to do anything. I just, hey man, this is the thing. We'll talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
And then he goes nuts with the thing. For the singing melodies, I had to do a lot of melody and break down how the words would go with that melody and so forth. And it was a little more work than what I imagined. I was just hoping like, okay, here is the main thing, and then just run with it. But it took a little more work. And once in a while, I get a guy who wants the written music. And so here, that's a challenge because I'm not, I can't write. I can compose, but I don't read or write the music. Thank God software does.
Right.
Yeah. So my software trust, because I worked with John Helliwell from Supertramp.
Yeah.
And he required, he wanted to see the music. I had another guy, a session musician in California, do some strings for me, like a quartet type of thing.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have the music in order to do it. I mean, even though I already had done everything on keyboard, and I said, this is what I want you to play, just like this. No, I need the music. So there being occasions of things like that where people required it. I got lucky with Rick Wakeman. I don't think he required the music. He just wanted a click track.
Who does he play with?
Yeah, that one guy. Yeah, some obscure guy in England.
Obscure for sure. Cool, Steve.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna read off the track list real quick before I get to my next question. So we have The Big Bang, Beyond, Urban Disturbance, Chasin' 3, Man in a White Car, Lost in the Forest, and then the title track, The Wicked Forest. So this album really begins with a bang, with the instrumental, The Big Bang. And then we get into Beyond, and I feel like John Davison's singing is a little bit different from how we're used to with the other tracks that he's on and what we're used to when he's in Yes. There's like a Yes way of singing where it sounds a little bit higher, but on Beyond it sounds a little bit lower, and there's also an effect on it. But was it a conscious decision to have him sing Beyond in a different fashion, or did it just end up like that organically?
No, well, what happened was when we were trying to get the vocals to nail down to go along with the melody the best way he could, if he sang it too high, it kind of didn't fit as good. Because I wrote the music before he got to it, right? So on the ones that he could sing it in the higher pitch, of course we did that. But on this one, it just, because it's a strangely constructed song, right? You have that instrumental in the front, and then it gets into it, but it's kind of, it calms down. So it just kind of worked out that way because of the way the music itself went. When we tried too high of a pitch, we couldn't nail the contrast between the vocals and the music to be kind of, until he lowered it enough to kind of go well. Does that
Interesting.
make sense? I mean,
Right.
I'm sure there is some technical term for that part, but then again, that's kind of how that part came about.
Oh, it sounds great. And as we talked about, a few tracks, of course, are instrumental pieces. Was there ever a consideration for those to have lyrics, or was the intention always to just have the instruments speak out for the song?
Well, like I mentioned before, I'm mostly instrumental. There is with this album, there's also a single. I don't know if I send you guys that part, but I happen to have one handy here. There is a single of the album that's also going to be released that has what it would be if this was vinyl. It'd be the B side, right? So on the B side, the first one is Lost in the Forest, right? Because that's kind of like, I don't know, I would say the hit of it, but it's like the obvious single of the album, right? It's I kind of wrote with that in mind. The second piece here is called The Concrete Jungle, and it has some horns and weird things like that. Because what happened is, for example, the song called Urban Disturbance, it didn't start anything like this. It started with me like 4 years ago wanting to do a piece that had horns, and it had sounded like Chicago meets something else, right? That was the idea. And actually, I recorded the bass with Billy on this one, and I had it all done. And then I realized once this project came alive, I said, now if I put this thing as part of that album, it's not gonna fit anything. So I took the conceptual idea of that song with the bass line that we already recorded and build this all other song around it and added the lyrics to the thing. So that one was kind of like, oh wow, I mean, it was kind of convoluted how it came about, but I do like it. So it's kind of it's quite, to me, it's quite different, right? And part of it is because it started as a complete different idea. So what I did on the single is I included the original version that it doesn't have voices, and it doesn't even have I mean, it has horns and whatnots in there. And there is some Latin vibe and everything. I mean, it was a complete different thing, but it was the genesis of that. It was like the reason I am putting it in this and not in this. See the sail here?
Yeah,
is because I thought the original idea was kind of interesting to share, and because I like it when sometimes your favorite bands release things years afterwards of like the Genesis backtrack, and also you go like, this was part of this song, but it's now on Trick of a Tail between the know what I mean, sort of thing. Yeah. So that's kind of what I did, and more or less, it's part of the history of a thing. If anything, I mean, I don't know that it will make anything, but it means something to me.
Yeah, it makes sense. That's great. Awesome.
Right. And you mentioned, having a couple of the guys from Yes, that there might be some Yes comparisons, and of course there's Man in a White Car, which personally this might be my favorite version of the White Car piece in any configuration. And I feel like the track right before and right after that one, they have this sound that really mesh well with the overall vibe of it. But overall, the album to me feels like it has its own sonic identity. Like it doesn't feel too much like Yes. The influences are definitely there because you have a couple of the guys in there, but yeah, it definitely feels like it has its own feel to me personally.
Oh, thanks. One tries, right? The problem is like when you do an album like the last one I did, which is like to sound like Pink Floyd, and you state it in public, this is what I meant to do. Then people immediately are trying to like compare, put you like you're some kind of you're ripping off something, right? Yeah. Which I think they're missing the point, because if they listen to any of my discography, you realize that not all their album is like that one. Like it's like, well, this guy just wanted to do this thing, and then he's still moving on, right?
Right.
Which is what I try with this. Obviously, the influence you're always gonna hear. I love it when I even sometimes almost by chance I'm improvising. All of a sudden, I do a little quickie lick, and it sounds like Wakeman, and and it triggers all kinds of things in your head. But Rick Wakeman is like my favorite keyboard guy. How would I not like if I, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of how I feel about it. So I get excited when something clicks that way. And throughout the album, I don't sound like Wakeman. There'll be these little hints that kind of does, bring that back, and it's just little moments.
They're definitely there
that you get of your influences that will permeate through the music. I mean, that's, to me, it's just.
Exactly.
I'm just trying to put out. To be honest with you, I'm just trying to put out some music, and I'm trying to improve with every album. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
I like for the next album to be better than the last one, and so forth. And that's how that kind of drives me.
Yeah.
This one, adding the lyrics was that thing. It's like, hey, I never added lyrics, and to give you some context on that, a lot has to do with the fact that when I was a kid, I grew up speaking Spanish in South America. Okay, that's where I grew up. My family comes from Europe to South America, and then I moved here when I was 16 or so. Last year of high school, I actually lived in Ohio for a while, came to college in Texas, and then stayed in Texas. That's kind of how that story went. But when I was a child, I used to love the Beatles. The Beatles was my most favorite band, right? It was like I loved them. And then I had a friend of mine who his parents were Italian. And then in the summers, they would send him to Italy to spend the summer with his grandmother. And one year, this is like 74, 75, somewhere around there, he comes back from Italy with a bunch of albums. And he goes, you got to listen to this stuff, right? And remember, I'm like the Beatles guy,
Yeah, right.
He brings in Genesis, Foxtrots, and Nursery Crime. And he puts that thing in there, and he blew my mind like right off the bat. I mean, I just could not believe this thing was even kind of possible. And he opened the doors. That's when I got into Yes and Pink Floyd Tall and Camel and everything that came after that. Before that, I wasn't that aware of. I mean, it was like an epiphany for me. The Genesis stuff was like, wow, I just can't believe this kind of music, right? I mean, these days a little bit different, right? I mean, it's been 50 years, and if you were to ask, and Genesis then became my favorite band. I loved them to death, right? And I've been lucky enough. I met Phil a couple times. I did some work for the guy, and I did some stuff, And so I've been kind of, never met Peter Gabriel, that I kind of always wanted to. But the Genesis thing was a big thing to me. And it was my favorite band, and I loved everything they did. But like many people, I would say there's a point where even though I have all their albums, I think, there was one point where it was like from everything is great to, well, everything is great, but this song is like, and then it's like, I don't like anything, but this song is almost okay. That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I know that a lot of people that grew up later than I did, they loved the Genesis with the Invisible Touch and stuff. But I actually had that. I bought that album when it first came out. I went and saw that tour. I don't know if that wasn't the one I saw. I actually went to their tour rehearsals one year because it was here in Houston. But I think it was the album after that. They had, their stage was so large, they had to rent a hangar that used to house the Goodyear blimp. And that was all done here. And I thought to myself, the band I grew up with, that loving, I said, there's no way I can miss this thing. I called everybody I knew in radio stations and stuff, trying to pull in there. But long story short, I did get in and got to see them rehearse that tour. But their music had changed, and now that I'm much older, I go back and I figure out, okay, what albums do I still play? Like Genesis used to be my favorite band, but I think, believe it or not, I have played their last album, the one they did without Phil.
Yeah, more than Calling All Stations.
Yeah. I actually like that. I actually like that album quite a bit. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, how could you?" I mean, there's some things I don't like. Like, I don't like that every song fades, so to speak, right? I mean, and that's kind of what happens to the production. But the album itself, I think it's fine. I met Nick, the drummer. What's his? I can't pronounce his last name. The Israeli guy, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Nick Z is what they call him. So
Yeah.
I thought he did a brilliant job. I mean, on the tour with them in Europe, and I thought I mean, I did like the album. If you tell me, do I like that album better than the Invisible Touch one? I haven't touched that one, in a long time. I mean, it's like I don't even want to hear it,
Yeah.
But the bands go through the thing, right? Everybody tries to be relevant to their time. I did like the fact that they had managed to be relevant in the market, because there is two sides of the fandom thing, right? There is a music
Right.
side, and there's this other side that you want them to do well, and they manage that. I remember in the 80s when Yes changed drastically to Owner of a Lonely Heart, that kind of thing. When it first came out, it was weird because it wasn't Yes, but to me, but I liked it. I didn't find it, Now when the second one came out after that, that kind of sounded the same way. I thought, okay, now this is more of the same. I kind of, I mean, we can move on. Yeah, that was my thought. But I felt that way about Drama when I was living already in the U.S. when Drama came out. I was in Ohio, and I would go. I didn't have anything. I didn't have a TV. I had a little Walkman that I bought in New York, and that was it as far as entertainment of any kind. That's all I had. So every so often I would go to the record store and buy the albums on tape, because I didn't have a record player. So I had to buy the cassettes. And one time I went to buy Peter Gabriel's third album, which again, that blew my mind. I thought it was incredible. To this day, it's my favorite thing he has ever done. But on one of those trips to the store, I saw the Yes Drama. The album cover caught my eye because I knew it was Roger Dean, but it was a little different. There was no lines, right? It was all more graphic in a way. And, I got intrigued, and I said, well, so I bought that. And I didn't know who was in it at the time. I didn't even read the liner notes or anything. I just put the cassette on and start playing, and I go, man, that guy sounds kind of weird. They sound different. I mean, I was trying to, but I liked it from the first time I heard it.
Same here. I don't remember any. I remember when it came out. I remember getting it. I remember loving it. And I was already a huge Yes fan since Fragile. But I don't remember. I don't think there was any. This doesn't make sense, but I don't remember there being any airplay whatsoever. I don't remember hearing anything on the radio before I got the album, so it was a total mystery.
That's how I felt. I mean, I didn't hear anything. I just saw it in the record store and got it. Now, I did go see that tour.
Same here, yeah.
And I wasn't thrilled with the tour part, though. I mean,
I loved it. I saw him in Los Angeles, and it was great. I thought it was great.
With the round stage, but I kept missing on the older songs John's voice, and I kept missing the keyboard sounding like they should sound, because again, Rick Wakeman is my guy, right? It's like my hero. And Jeff is a great keyboard player himself, actually, and he's pretty good composer. Man in a White Car. I don't know. I mean, when I went to buy the rights, it's credited to all of them, right?
Yeah.
But I think most of that was Jeff Downes with his what was it? The Big Sin of the Day. And I think that's what that came about. And I think I remember him telling me something like that. We hang out one night at NAMM, me and the Yes guys, and Alan Parsons, actually, he showed up. But I was talking to Jeff about that, because I was just telling him, I said, I don't know what it is about that little piece of music, but I really like it. So, I mean, which goes back to my album, why it all came about, sort of.
Yeah. Interesting. That's neat. Going way back to, I can't believe I'm saying way back 10 years ago, 2016, in your album, The Future Left Behind. You mentioned, you've worked with Rick, you had him on, and we understand that Journey to the Center of the Earth is an influence. But what was it like having your biggest hero on and working with Rick? What was that
Well,
like?
there's a funny story about that. Who wouldn't want Rick Wakeman to play on their album, right? Because
on any kind of music, yeah.
Right. I mean, one thing is to say, hey, I played on this Rick Wakeman album. The other thing is to say Rick Wakeman play on mine.
Right.
That's a different thing. But I figure anybody would have loved that. And that's where I was in my head. I said, you know what, this would really be cool, because it was the inspiration of this thing. I remember, again, when Journey of the Center of the Earth came out, it was a mind-blowing thing, right? It was just so different,
Yeah.
so grandiose. It was, it's funny because it's everything that a lot of the people when the punk came in hated about prog, but I hate all of it, because I thought, man, this is virtuosity at work. This is like the highest exponent. In my mind, that's how it worked. So, to be honest with you, tell you the story, I wouldn't dream that I could get Rick Wakeman on my album. So I approached Oliver, his son.
Yeah.
He's the one who I approached first. So I said, okay, I'm going to go to Oliver, because I seen him play. He can play like his dad. I mean, he has his own style when he does his own stuff. But if he wants to play like his dad, he can nail it, right? I mean, he has the same kind of nuances and whatnot. So I said, I can get him. That way I can get the Wakeman sound and, be feasible and whatnot. So I emailed him. And then a week went by and crickets. And 2 weeks went by. And it's like, okay, well, he's blown me off, right? I mean, it won't be the first time. It won't be the last time. So I said, you know what? I knew a guy who would arrange tours for Rick Wakeman back in the day. So I called him up. He gave me the info. So I went and approached Rick. I said, look, I might as well go for the gusto now.
Yeah.
And I approached him with the thing. He's on one piece, right? I mean, and I said, so he agreed to it. And then after he agreed to it, I get an email from Oliver, like 2 days afterwards. Sorry, so the delay. I'm being very busy with the straps and all that, and he said a couple of lines. I thought, well, that was kind of nice way to blow me off. But he ended the email with the following. He said, "But I see you already got my dad."
That's a good story. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, it's like. It's kind of funny because, everybody, I don't know, I could have pitched it as, when I talked to Rick Wakeman, but I got to be honest, I didn't think I could get him. What I did, people go, well, what did you do? Friends of mine said, what did you do to get him to agree? I said, I just sent him the track that I composed with the ideas and markings and, notes into, like, you fit here, don't fit there, what do you think? And I guess he must have thought it was good enough. I can do this. So
it says a lot. That's wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very fortunate, but I did, the funny thing is that I only approached him because after not hearing from the son, if Bollywood would have said, okay, I would have never had Rick Wakeman. I would have Oliver Wakeman.
That's funny.
Which it would have been okay.
That's quite the tale.
But Rick is who I grew up with. I mean, I wouldn't be feeling bad if Oliver would have done it. The guy, he's amazing himself. They're about to tour together.
Yeah. Yeah, we just had him on recently talking about that.
Yeah. He's a likable guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So The Future Left Behind, I actually was able to give that album a listen. It sounds incredible, and it's one of those albums that reminds me of whenever I listen to something that's not familiar to me, I have this indescribable joy when I am not sure which way it's gonna go, and especially on the track Launch Overture, like I got that feeling. So this was the album cover for it, and you also did an alternative edit of Launch Overture, which had this alternative album cover, which I'll show real
which many people are gonna, and
yeah.
I'll tell you a story behind that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Here's
It
the
looks like
story behind
Tormata.
that. What this that was like a single, right? That one ran out. We did some CDs, and there was some vinyl. There was a clear vinyl on that.
Oh,
That one, there is an alternate edit of the Launch Overture, and then there was a second version of Launch Overture. That the difference was because I had to always bag myself up, right? So when I was working with Rick, I didn't know that I could get any of these guys. So instead of a Moog solo that you hear from him, I had an organ solo that I had done that which still sounded okay. It's no Rick Wakeman, but so I thought, okay, well, after the album comes out, we can release these and we'll put all the versions, right? I think there were 3 versions.
Oh.
The longer version, there was the alternate edit, kind of. It's been a while, so I can't remember. But I think we cut the little intro off where there is no countdown or anything like that. But because Wakeman was part of the thing, and he's kind of like a prankster, you guys are. I'm pretty sure you're all well familiar with the fact that he disliked the Tormata cover a whole lot, which is kind of weird because I'm a graphic designer by trade. Okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you think of Yes, you think of Roger Dean, but of the covers that Roger Dean did not do, that one I like a lot. That's his Hypnosis guys, right?
Yeah.
It's so memorable.
So it was right. So I thought, well, I almost like it's like an inside joke, but I'm probably the only one laughing out of it. I decided to take my album cover for the single and take the original cover and do the Tormata treatment.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a little thing.
Did Rick ever respond to you about that?
No, actually, I did write him about that and never heard about that. He's very hard to get.
Yeah. Okay. You know that Tormata is Oliver's favorite Yes album.
I love Tormata.
Yeah, me too. And that was my first tour that I saw from like the 6th row. Oh, it was just unbelievable. It really was. Yeah.
Tormata to me, when I remember this much, when I first bought it, right? Actually, my mom bought it for me because she was going to New York, and I said, "Give me this up," So she, when I first played with my brother. My older brother is a big fan too. I mean, actually, I probably got into prog because of him. He's a couple of years older than me, but our paths musically kind of changed. He's a little more on the Metallica side of things these days.
Hell with that guy.
I'm a little more melodic. But anyway, when we first played Tormata, it sounded different.
Yeah.
And the first listen, I was like, I couldn't make my mind up. It's like, oh, do I like this or do I don't like this? The more I heard of it, the more I listened to it, the more I liked. And to this day, I think the Silent Wing of Freedom is just as good as anything I've ever done. And in my opinion, it's probably the best bass track that Squire ever did. It's just it makes my screen. I mean, it's just amazing. It just to me, it's incredible. Those lingering notes towards the end.
And the harmonized Rickenbacker. And as a drummer, Future Times Rejoice is so much fun to play. I love playing those 2 songs together, and like you said, Silent Wings of Freedom. I've said this over and over and over, and Steve and people watching might be tired of hearing me say this, but I would love to get my hands on remixing that album. It sounds like it's on a little box compared to I mean, when you listen to Drama that came after that, but even to going for the one before that, and then you got Relay. It's just there's something about the production that's really lacking.
A little teeny. You know,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
It's amazing that the music still does sound as good as it is, but that's a testament to their compositions and their playing and everything like that. Big Generator is the other one. You know, such a brilliant work by Trevor Horn with 90125, and then Big Generator sounds like they recorded it in a big refrigerator box or something. It's just horrible. It's horrible. Sorry, it's horrible. But
No, you know, the funny thing about the Tornado thing is that a lot of fans, you know, the band didn't have a good time making it, right? I mean, that was
Right.
a horrible experience, sort of making the album. They were fighting in and out and whatnot. And you know, one thing that sometimes I feel fans do not really get across is like sometimes band members may not like a particular album because in their mind they're remembering what a pain it was to make and all the
yeah,
stuff that went negatively, but
process was
it's
negative.
separate from how the music turned out, right? I mean, the
Totally.
music, you know, and that's what I felt about Tornado. You know, the band members, if you talk to them, they almost have nothing great to say about it, but the
It's a
reality
great
is the
album.
album is fantastic.
Yeah.
I understand you didn't like the experience, and therefore it's not gonna be your favorite
Yeah.
thing.
They're more attached to that.
But the
You're
music
right.
is really good. You know.
Yeah. You know, since we're on that topic, I'd like to get your opinion. I'm sure Stu would love to hear this too. I'm one of those weirdos. Steve is too, I think. I love Open Your Eyes. I love that album. And I saw the tour. That's when I met Billy. I've known Alan for years before that. I love that album, and the tour was fantastic. We get The Revealing Science of God. The title track, Open Your Eyes, just was thunderous the way they rocked that out. There's some other tracks on there that I wish they played. I've told Billy for years that Fortune Seller, the production on that is just amazing. I think it's a great album. What's your opinion of it? And if you disagree, that's okay.
No, that's fine. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to, you know, it's funny that you mention it because I just recently went through listening to a lot of Yes albums. I mean, funnily enough, I don't listen to that much music these days, right? I mean, even when you do an album, at least when I do, by the time I'm done with the final mix down, I'm like so burned out on it, right?
Oh, yeah, I know you got
Nobody
detached.
else had listened to it, but you're like, I've listened. I tell people, I say, well, what do you feel about your new album? I feel like if every time I heard it
You
when I
need a
was
nap.
mixing it would count, that thing be charted already just by me, you know. But
Yeah.
you get a little bit burnt out on that. But every so often I get the urge of, you know, let me just listen to some music and I'll go through this stuff. And I was playing some music and I play Open Your Eyes. And I actually played it twice, you know, because
Right.
I remember when it first came out, it didn't wow me, I'll be honest. The first time it came out, I thought it was, you know, hey, this is like a way simplistic sound, sort of. I mean, I kind of knew where they were heading, sort of, in a way. They were kind of shifting between things, you know, because like when they did talk would not have happened if it wasn't from some record exec that said, look, I want an album, I want this line on it. That it was adamant about that. This is who I want it to be. And they all go, okay, you know, because at that point, I don't think that was the lineup that was planning to do things, you know. So they did that and they finished it and whatnot. And I think like Open Your Eyes was kind of that kind of deal, right? Like we had to put an album out, and you know, and I think most of that was done by Billy and Chris. I think did most of stuff. I mean, if I recall, I think even the other guys kind of came in late into the game, and all the foundation was already laid down. So the first time I heard it, honestly, it didn't rock my boat, right? I thought, but I just then every so often, things stick in my head, right? Like the title track, and you know, so, you know, there's some catchy hooks in there. And then the other day I listened to it, and after the first time I said, you know, this is nowhere as bad as I remember it being. And I listened to it again, and I kind of like it. Yeah, it's kind of weird how your perception changes if you just open. Here's the problem: when I was younger, I was like a lot of fans, the hardcore fan, right? So your heroes cannot do wrong. They cannot be. They're not human. They're your superheroes. They cannot do wrong, and anything that goes off kilter
until they screw it up.
That's right, and it's all this stuff. That's it. So it's all or nothing kind of thing, and people get very vested emotionally with their.
Yeah, like fans get more married to a sound than the artist does, and that's really weird because
Well,
who would do that,
and
right?
and it goes to varying degrees, right? I mean, when it gets real hard, they imagine these people's personalities, right? And I made
Right.
enough people to see their show face, their real face, and
Yeah.
and I've seen them
Business
in
face.
all degrees. They come like it's just like anybody else, right? But there are people at the end of the day. That's what I mean. I remember in New York being in a waiting with Tony Levin. We were talking about things, and I was thinking, here I am in a waiting room while the other guys are recording their bits, talking to Tony Levin, and we're talking about acid reflux. It's which is the last thing you think you would be talking to one of your
Right.
But once you're in the context of more human contact, right? You don't have to be on, so to speak.
Right, exactly.
Then you get to meet the person who it is. But fans don't get to see that. So in their eyes, they build this whole thing, right? And
Yeah,
a lot
they
of times,
create the persona they want to believe the
that's right.
person.
Well, I mean, it's not like baseless completely, but it's based
Right.
on the music and it's based on the little interviews they see. And sometimes on the interviews, I'm not an actor, so I'm whoever you're meeting right now. But some of these guys, they're pros, right? They're on when the interview goes in, when it's off, they're off, and they're nothing like what you thought they were. Not mentioning
Right.
names or anything, but that does happen, right?
Yeah.
Same with actors. I mean, celebrities in general, because
Steve's one of those people. No, I'm
the,
kidding.
no, well, their public persona is part of it of the promotional aspect
Yeah.
of being a celebrity. So what
Part
it
of the
does
brand.
of the fans is they create these personalities of these guys, and they figure, yeah, if I hang out with this guy, I can see him being my best friend, and they really have no idea what these people are like, but they build that, and when you're young, you do so, and I felt that way about that's like the first time I saw Billy. That's my first reaction is, who the hell is this guy? It's like in my head I'm going like, he's ruining my favorite band. What are you doing? Kind of thing. But it was just the fan jealousy. Why is he there and not me? Kind of thing. You know what I mean? that's probably
Yeah.
really what it was, more than anything.
Totally. That's funny. What's the story behind Bill Bruford getting a credit on your 2010 EP "Strangers in Strange Places"? Did he like carry your drums, or did he tune
No.
with that?
Here's the deal with that, and that one sometimes gets kind of misconcepted because it's one of those things that people don't realize how it happened, and so therefore,
Right.
What happened? I met Bruford a couple times in my life. The first time around, he was touring drum shops around the U.S., pedaling with Dave Simmons, their electronic drums.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
so the Simmons drums that I remember that that had
I still have them.
You have? Yeah, I have one. I have an SD1 pad that didn't. I had very mishaps in my life. One was this particular house. This is my home studio, but we flooded during a hurricane. We had 5 feet of water for 12 days, and I lost just about everything I owned.
Oh, jeez.
And had to rebuild. But I used to have a kit, and I remember the very first version. I don't know which version you had, but the very first version, you play like on Formica. You remember, it was like the hardest thing in the world to play on. But anyway, but Bruford could make those things sing, and so he toured with Simmons and did that. And then I met him again. He did a tour with Patrick Moraz.
I saw that. Yeah, those 2 albums they did were great.
They were great, and then, but I remember talking to him, and I remember he telling me some stuff. I was much younger, so everything he would say was like, But I got a hold of these little tapes from some recording sessions that he was doing for some project that was going to come out, software. I actually think it did come out. So what he was doing is he was recording things on the Siemens, and he was recording things on a Tama kit for looping thing, right? Yeah. And I knew a guy who knew a guy. Don't ask me who and what, but I got a hold of those tapes before they went to be manufacturing things, and I started playing with it. So I started editing them, right? And this is to me before. I don't know. Maybe the MIDI thing was a pretty ongoing thing. To me, it was all kind of new, right? So I did all these editing bits with the tracks, and like with a man on a white car, I sat on it for a few years, and then I decided to, I want to release that. But I am one of those guys who credit due. So I did contact him. I said, look, I use these things that you did for one of my pieces. I edited it all. And so I sent him the track for him to check out. And then he came back saying, oh, that's very nice. You can use it and, contact these people of mine for the credit line, right? Because I said, okay, how do I credit this thing?
Yeah.
And I said, well, so I contact the Bill Bruford Productions, I think is what it was called. I don't know if it's still around or whatever, And then they send me the lines. They say, yeah, you can put the drums by Bill Bruford, put an asterisk, and then, but you have to say that it's for the Packet of Three. I said, well, these are some. I didn't know about the Packet of Three, by the way. I said, this is from some sessions he did, and said, yeah, no, he did them for this software. Oh, okay. So put that in there, and so I ended up doing that. So it's not like he really played for me, but there was some involvement, is what I feel like. So
Sure.
I did have to talk to him and show him and get his approval. I was very worried about it. I'm one of those guys. I don't want to step on people's legal terms of things,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I want to give credit where credit is due, because I wouldn't like people, which I seen people rip me off. I mean, I've seen some of the stuff I've done. People gravitate, like if I did a promo piece for somebody of I did this thing for Genesis. I think it's called More Seconds Out. I kind of mimic the Seconds Out cover using the very lights,
Yeah.
And then I seen coasters and I seen all kinds of crap with my picture on it. It doesn't kill me. It's not like they're gonna be really rich, but I seen people doing that. I saw one guy. I did go after this guy, and thank God they took him down. He took one of my Jethro Tull posters. I think I did for my Europe tour. And he basically stripped the type out and printed a shirt and claimed it as his own and started selling shirts out there. And I went after. I had to prove to the reseller that he's going through, because it's one of those internet things that, hey man, this guy's just ripping me off. Here is the actual,
Yeah.
And they took his stuff out, but
Good.
But that sort of thing goes all the time. I'm not one of those guys. I want to kind of, when like I've done some promotional posters for Yes and stuff like that. But if you look in the posters themselves, there's always the tag where even though I had to redraw a lot of stuff, I don't take credit for the Yes logo. That's Roger. So it'll say Roger D logo by, I mean, all of that. And that had to be checked by the promoters, which at the time, one was Pace Concerts, who became Clear Channel Communications, who became Live Nation. That's who they are now. So they're the ones who, and then they usually do the posters, and then they go and bounce it off to the band and bounce it off to the management, and it gets all approved. And then on one, and Dean probably didn't even know that any of this was going on. That happens. These promotional things do happen. But one time after a Yes concert, I got to meet Roger, and I had some of those in my phone. And I said, well, let me show you this. So I showed him the stuff. I said, this is stuff. And I told him, I said, you credit it with the appropriate credit, because I'm not one thing like that. But he looked at the stuff. I remember one of them, he particularly goes, oh, that's very good. You should be in jail. But he did like it, and I said, "Hey, man, I gave you credit. It'll say poster designed by Leonard, but it says typography by Roger Dean. And I want to make sure that." And I said, "And it's all clear, because I don't know other stuff for other people that wanted certain things in certain styles.
Yeah.
But if they don't run it, if it's not run through the proper channels, I don't, I don't think it's necessarily kosher. So credit with credit is due. If Roger Dean does something, and again, everything I did though for that tour promotional wise was ran through the promoter who ran it through management. And there was a particular one, I think in 2002, they ran some big ones because normally these things run like 11 by 17 flyers, and they'll put them in record stores and in posts and sort of thing. But once in a while, the promoter would say, "Oh, these look great. Let's get some big ones plotted out to go on the front of the venue." So there was one in 2002 was very colorful, and they really liked it. So we ran several like that, and then. My memory is not that, but I think it was John Anderson. It was somebody in the band said, I really love this. Can I have a big one myself?" So we had to plot out extra for them.
Funny. Thanks for that.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Yes album?
One, Leon. One. Steve said a favorite.
Well, that's a tough one because, like most people, it depends. To be honest with you, it depends on the time of the year, the day. Would you catch me on?
The mood, yeah.
Yeah, it does because, like many
what is
people,
it now? What is it now?
I mean, right now, if I were to pick one right now, I mean, what popped in my head was Relayer. That's what popped in my head right now. But I don't know that's. I don't know how true this statement is. It's kind of like when you said it, it kind of like, oh, this is. But like most people, you have a favorite period, right? I mean, anything from the Yes album to Tornado, to me, it was like Now I do like everything after that, and some more than others.
And there's a lot of diversity in that spectrum that you mentioned, in fact, as well.
Yeah. No, there is
lineups, and that's interesting.
But I was thinking about that because but that happens in the period where you're young enough to be very impressionable, right?
Yeah.
So once that gets embedded in your head, it's kind of hard to get it off for the rest of your life. It's like you're marked for life. Whatever you got as a teenager is it,
Exactly.
No matter how great some other stuff is. So I'd be lying if I say there's one favorite album. I think there's several in there, but tonight
Relayer was a good quick one. That's awesome.
How about you? Which one is yours?
Gosh, it depends on the mood and the day and it's automatically Tales from Topographic Oceans for the simple reason, one of many, but for the top simple reason that it has everything. I feel it has everything they'd done up to that point, and we hear traces of it afterward. You got Leaves of Green, you got the crazy stuff of the Ancient, you got the Revealing. It truly just has great Moog solos. You got Steve Howe's killer. It's Chris's vocals backing up. Has everything, and you get four sides of it. It
is a big one. However, if you, it's the one you have to pause to go to the bathroom because there is no break between it.
Right.
Yeah.
How about you, Steve? Yeah.
How about you, Steven? Which one's yours?
Yeah. For several years, it was Relayer, but then I think Tales from Topographic Oceans topped it, and it's been like that for quite a while now. I've been going through the Super Deluxe edition too. Yeah.
To me, it was the other way around. I mean, Tales from Topographic Oceans, I really loved for a while during my, I don't know if I would call it my harsher years, but it's kind of like that was it from them, and then from Genesis was the Lamb Last Down on Broadway, and I was just taking on that. But I got to tell you, as the years go by, I've gone a little more melodic. And I don't know, man. I mean, maybe it's the aging thing. Maybe it's the guys I play with that eventually cracking some on me. They all like stuff I don't like, so I play a lot of covers of things I don't like on Wednesday nights with a group of guys. Some I do like, but I'm one of those guys that I think you can learn something from anything.
Yes,
And
I say that all the time. I tell people, drummers, I say, listen to bands that you don't really like that much,
right,
and you will pull new tools out of into your
that's right.
toolbox
That's right.
if you're open minded. Now you mentioned Genesis and all of that, and with Steve Hackett's birthday and the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, Stephen and I separately saw Steve's last tour, and he played 9 songs off the Lamb Lies Down on Broadway,
Oh
and it
wow.
was just and Supper's Ready. It was just incredible. It was jaw dropping. It was literally
He played the entire Supper's Ready from beginning to end.
yes, the entire thing,
I
and
saw
it
it.
was just
That was,
unreal.
and you know,
First the
it,
fifth,
oh,
just
that's
I
great.
got a lot of it in my phone. I can't put anything else in my phone because of all that.
I mean, I would have to say, if you say what is your favorite prog song ever, I would have to say Supper's Ready. That's in my head.
Yeah, I love that song. The live version off Seconds Out is my favorite.
That is
version.
my very favorite one.
Yeah.
And I'm the same thing. When I listen to that song, the first things that come to mind is like, well, I know Peter wrote the song and he sings it in his way, but for some reason, Phil sings it better to me on that Seconds Out version than anybody
Yeah.
ever. And the drums are more alive and everything
Yeah.
like grander. That is my but I saw them do the whole Supper's Ready from beginning to end once, and I just like that was, you know, and you talk about that's back in the day when you could just camp out for tickets.
Yeah.
So we had like 6th row, a little
I
bit to
think
the
they
side.
played it on the Abacab tour. Was it that
Yeah,
Abacab?
yeah.
I-
That was and it was just, you know, I mean, when people say, well, what are your favorite concerts and stuff? I mean, that one always sticks out because I was so close. Number one, I wasn't in the nosebleed like normally. I was right there, and it was the first time they had those the very lights. And
Yeah.
you know, at the beginning of the concert, they don't show up, so you don't, you know. But at one point, they all come out and they start doing moving and stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, you know, that was like a life-changing thing.
When I saw the Abacab tour, you know who showed up for the encore? Well, he didn't show up for the encore. He was there watching and got pulled onto stage. Can you take a guess who it was?
I had no clue. Where was it?
Bill Bruford. It
Oh
was in
wow!
Los Angeles. Bill was on the side of the stage watching, and Phil just happened to see him and go like this, and he pulled him out, put a set of timbales in front of him, and there was Bill swinging his butt back and forth, playing the timbales to the Lamb Lies to Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. Just that track. Yeah, it was great. It was really cool.
That would have been something else.
We're probably around the same age. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
60 something.
Okay, I'll be 60 something in April.
Okay.
I think I'm a year or two older than you.
Yeah, and I've listened to your plays, Genesis, and other stuff on your Bandcamp. It sounds great. It has that nice Genesis nighttime feel that they had. So real great stuff. Do you have any other influences apart from Genesis and Yes?
Oh yeah, I got many, but I don't know if I'm going to do things on that way. I mean, obviously Genesis and Yes and Pink Floyd are probably my top, but I like Jethro Tull a ton. I don't know that I could write like Ian. His music is extremely British in a way, you know.
Passion Play is my favorite Tull album. That and then Minstrel in the Gallery, 2 favorite Tull albums.
You know, one is, it's kind of funny because, you know, my brothers too, but my favorite Tull album, that one I can say it a lot quicker than the other ones for some reason. War Child sticks out to me. I love that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I love that album. But anyway, Supertramp. I love Supertramp. I've seen them like 4 times. You know, I just they have a nice vibe to them. I don't know that I could do something along those lines, but I do like them. I mean, in this album, actually, I don't know which song is it. Is it? I think it may be Beyond. At the end, there is a piano portion that dun 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 dun, and when I was doing that, I did that separate. You know how you make songs out of bits that you work here and there, right?
Yeah.
Most of my music comes out of just playing around things here and there, and you go, "Oh, that sounds good." Towards the end, there's some piano in there, and it started to me trying to sound like Rick Davies from Super,
Oh,
and that's kind of what it. When I started playing, that's kind of what echoed in my head. So I said, well, let me keep carrying on. Of course, as it developed, it changed, but that was the beginning. I was like, well, I'll go with this groove and see what it sounds like. It wasn't so much me trying to be like Supertramp, but I can sense when I'm doing something and my inspiration is coming out. You know what I mean? I mean, whether I am the only one who can hear that on it, you know what I mean?
right. Yeah, that's
Well,
funny. I get
Yeah,
it.
like I'm kind of
Yeah.
like that in my novel writing. Like there'll be a scene where to me it's clear that, oh, this was influenced by this thing I watched or listened to, but to a reader it might just not
Right.
register. Yeah.
But you know what I mean. That's why the funny thing when you talk about inspiration, some people go, well, what inspired? Like you asked in the 70s, to the Genesis guy, what's your inspiration? And they would say like Stevie Wonder. I said, well, like what kind of acid are you taking that you sound
Right.
nothing like the guy, right? but
That's so funny.
but that was because inspirations work differently with different people right inside
Yeah.
your head, right? And when you're doing things, but I can kind of sense when I'm playing what thing. Oh well, this things trigger, and I guess I don't know that the creative thing starts happening, but in your head, you know what inspired you, whether other ones can catch that or not, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I have there's several inspirations, and there's people that I don't know if they would inspire me because I don't think I could reach it. But there's a lot of like Gentle Giant,
Oh, love Channel Giant.
yeah. But to me, it's the construction of their composition is so complex.
Yeah.
I'm not quite capable of that.
You know what though? Just on that note, before we ask a very magical, almost last question, because the last question would be tell people where they can get your stuff. But Gentle Giant, it is complex. A lot of it's very esoteric. You listen to something like Knots or stuff from the Octopus album, but then you listen to stuff from the Missing Piece, and there's some really commercial stuff there that they did in the end. And if you watch like a couple of the concert films that are on YouTube, especially the latter one with Derek, I always tease Derek about his white jumpsuit. There's some commercial stuff, and then they do this stuff that's like
Right.
otherworldly, so complex, like you're saying.
But you wonder if that's just try to reach a wider audience, or what comes out of it. Well, I mean, he became a pretty famous music exec and signed up.
Yeah. I think it was his birthday yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, darn! I wish we knew that. I'll write him. Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, but yeah, Gentle Giant was one of those. I'll tell you what though, and then there is and I'll post this because you haven't asked, but I think it should be one. Guilty pleasures, right? What band that has nothing to do with prog whatsoever?
Yeah.
But you like, and people, a lot of times, like, I mean, it's kind of funny because I know guys that said, well, I kind of like ABBA. And I said, well, that's good for you. I'm not the ABBA guy, but I do have one.
What is yours? And now we'll give ours.
Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Oh, okay. Interesting. I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. I wouldn't think of it as a guilty pleasure, but for what you're into.
Well, I'll tell you why, because when I really got into them was like when I was growing up and disco hit, everybody, I mean, it was a huge, I hated it. I got
same
passion, but because I did not like it, I was like pegging to you hang out with the druggies and the whatevers because they're the only ones who don't like this stuff. I say, yeah, you're kidding me. You know how much coke the disco people did?
Oh my God, yeah.
So
that's interesting.
The Earth, Wind, and Fire have put an album out called All and All. That was the name of it. And they had a song called Fantasy. Yeah. And I had a little girlfriend at the time. She bought it, and she playing it. And of course, she's in the disco. She didn't even know who the hell they were, but she loved the little songs and sang to the stuff. Now, the music wasn't exactly disco, but it was during that era, so it tended to go a little bit that way. What amazed me was first of all, the production values of that album are incredible to me to this day. It holds up again. You want to be an audiophile, try to test your equipment. That's one you ought to try on. It's incredibly well put together. And back in the day, you didn't have like, quantizing or any of the stuff that we have today that make us sound even better.
Right.
So they were right on it. The beats, the percussion, they were just incredible. I just thought, and they had an amazing. I have learned to appreciate as I get older more the melodies, as melodies, right? And how people build melodies and how hooks catch people, right? I mean, there's several, like another band I like that is not prog. I mean, they are out there, but I wouldn't. It's Talking Heads. I like the Talking Heads. But you wouldn't think I would like the Talking Heads if what I'm into is like the
right.
Yeah, right. But there's things to those music that I have learned to like at the same, and maybe I don't know. Maybe if some of those later Genesis albums would have come out and I never heard the first ones, or it would have been them, I would have thought, oh, that's it.
Often it's context.
Right. I mean, there is that thing that there's an expectation, and when they don't meet your expectation, then you go,
Yeah. Real quick before I do ask the last magical question, my guilty pleasures are B-52s and Tears for Fears, specifically the Sowing the Seeds of Love album. Steve, what's your guilty pleasure? I can't even remember right now if I ever knew.
I mean, I listen to a lot of different things, but I don't know if I really consider anything a guilty pleasure. Like, I guess in terms of something that people who know I listen to prog might not expect, I do enjoy some of what I've heard from Chappell Roan, pop artists. So I guess that could possibly qualify.
Yeah, Chromatics.
Oh yeah, Chromatics are great.
Yeah, Steve Tremaine,
Ruth Radaway's solo stuff. Yeah,
wonderful stuff. So Leon, when the narrow slivers of time appear in your life when you're not working on music, you're not playing music, you're not recording music, you're not writing music, you're not going to see music, what's your fun fact you could tell us? This is a Leon fun fact of what you like to do outside of music.
I do artwork.
Oh, okay.
I do artwork, and that's funny because it does relate to the music at one point. I enjoy working on my album covers. I gotta tell you, as much as I enjoy working on the music of them, which is kind of weird because all my musician friends, to them, the packaging almost seems completely secondary. To me, it's part of the whole shebang.
For sure. Do you do artwork outside of professional graphic arts? Do you do it just?
Yeah. Actually, several of the paintings inside my house it's stuff I've done.
Okay.
So,
cool.
I mean, there is something in with the arts that I just you just got to let it out. It's kind of like my wife says, so how long are you gonna be putting out CDs and stuff? Because nobody buys CDs. So I said, well, I believe in the physical media, and I believe it's just like I like to not only have the thing, but hold it, have the
I'm the same way.
The whole
I love that. I'm so old school that way.
Yeah. So I tell her, as long as I can, that's how I'm gonna do until somebody tells me there are no players anymore for you to even put them on.
Right.
Everything I release has gone out on CDs, and a couple of things even on vinyl.
That's great.
But artwork, it's just people think that you try to do this. It's you should do it for the for the love of it, right? And I said, well, I do it for the love of it. You think this thing I'm making gold money out of this thing? I mean, this is an expensive way to go in. But it's something you feel you have to say, and when you get it out there and you put so much work, you want to share it with people. And they go, well, but you should share it for I said, well, I share it for whatever I can, but if I can recoup the cost at least of what it takes
Yeah.
to make this thing out, then I don't think anything wrong
Well,
with that.
speaking of which, Steve's going to show your album again and tell everybody where they can get it. And we'll make sure it's in the notes. Probably is already of the interview. But where can they find you? Where can they follow you? Where can they buy from you?
The CD itself, it's available to my Bandcamp, which is actually managed by my record label. It's Melodic Revolution Records. They also have their own website that you can probably find my catalog in.
Right.
And that's where you can get the physical media.
Or people can send Steve and myself $1.50 and we'll share the Dropbox link.
Yeah. And then, but it will be, I know this is the contention of, a lot of people, they hate the streaming thing, and I'm not in love with the money on it, but I gotta admit, if it wasn't for streaming, there'd be hundreds of thousands of listens that had never been listened to of my music throughout the years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it will be on all that stuff. It'll be on Spotify, on Apple, on
Great.
Amazon, or whatever the big ones are, and some that I never even heard of in my life, but they're still in it. So the availability is out there. I sing sometimes my music like in Amazon. I don't know who puts it out there, to be honest with you. Sometimes it's like an incredible high price, like $45 for a CD.
Yeah, that's on Steve's account. He puts it up there.
Yeah, I don't know who does it, but I've seen them. But my Bandcamp thing would you type my name inside Bandcamp and it'll show that. It'll show my entire catalog. It's all there. I mean, that'd be the best way to get the actual CD.
Cool.
If that's what you want.
Awesome. Well, it's been so much fun having you on. We will have to stay in touch and have you on again. Really appreciate you taking so much time with us, and hang on the line after we say goodbye to the audience for a moment. And audience, Steve's going to tell you where you can find us.
Yeah, you can follow us at Yesshift on Facebook and YouTube, or go to a podcast app, type Yesshift. You'll probably find us. We'll probably show up pretty easily in the search engines. And you can also write to us via yesshiftpodcast@gmail.com.
Yep. And those of you watching the simulcast or the archive on Drum Talk TV, thanks for following Yesshift as well. And Leon also played drums on the album. So there you go. A double header tonight. And thanks everybody for following what we do. And we will see you all pretty soon. We got lots of great stuff happening. Thanks everybody.
And thank you for having me, guys. I mean, this has been fun.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leon.